Welcome to the ninth session of our exchange of ideas. We have concluded the first 8 sessions, in which session 4 to 8 was exploring the journey of the human mind. And now we find that this journey of the human mind has to change after 2008. Therefore, we will now look at the research hypothesis and research methodology of exploring 4 human values in this set of 2 sessions. We will take 2 sessions because OECD, World Economic Forum, are seeking values. So what are those values? We will explore these values in this set of 2 sessions, the 9th and the 10th interactions. And these values are designed to create well-being and not social pain. So we decided that the journey of the human mind had to change direction in 2008. Why? Because the global economic crisis shook the world. It led to questioning many assumptions about life and work. There were no easy solutions to the problems. The way to prevent their recurrence too was not clear. The 2020 crisis was a similar one, though it had different dimensions. Where does society look for to seek solutions? It can only depend on ideas that human beings have. So what can transform these ideas? Education is what everyone depends on. This has led to our research ethics course, where we decide to find the way to prevent recurrence of such problems through a curriculum design of research ethics using research methodology. In this set of 2 sessions, we examine a research hypothesis that uses 4 human values to create ethics through an academic curriculum whose application in life and work prevents social pain. Lecture 2 stated this need, that is, for a course on research ethics using a methodology that prevents the pain. And where was this identified? This was identified in the OECD report, which said that this need exists in society. So how to fulfill this need becomes a question in itself. Therefore, lecture 8 ended with this slide, that keeping all this in mind, what should we do? Keeping the OECD report in mind, what should we do? How do we design our research methodology to make a research ethics course emerge from it? We had left you with this thought in lecture 8, and we will be happy to hear what your ideas are. So how will you handle this if this was your research problem? We are giving this as an example. We have used a business research methodology earlier because the 2008 recession happened due to what was blamed on businesses. We have taken the problem of designing the research ethics course as a case study. A business school case study often ends with this question to the protagonist in the case. In this situation, what will you do and why? So let us ask ourselves this problem. It's a time to recap the solutions that the world wants, that is the OECD and World Economic Forum. What are the solutions that they are seeking? The OECD's Directorate of Education and Skills wants education to develop character and transform attitudes. The goal is not prosperity, but it is well-being now, and they've set a target for it to be achieved by 2030. The World Economic Forum now seeks character for competencies that are needed for the 21st century. So the OECD's Directorate of Education and Skills has developed a compass, a learning compass, which will help achieve the goal of well-being by 2030. And if you see this compass, It seeks reflection before action, and it is looking to develop values and attitudes along with skills and knowledge. And what does the World Economic Forum seek? It seeks skills which are based on lifelong learning. And how do we do lifelong learning? We start the habit at the very beginning of every class by using cooperation with others as the basis of the Sahana Vavatu approach. The World Economic Forum states that not only out of the skills that are going to be needed for the 21st century, only 1/3 of the skills are going to be foundational literacies. We are concentrating so much time, so much energy on these skills, but they are only 1/3 of the requirements. Character for competencies are equally important. Therefore, education needs to attain different objectives than it did in the last 150 years. How to create well-being instead of prosperity using the same academic concepts. That is the challenge for us. And this challenge can only be met by using the mind differently. The mind must emerge from a different set of ideas, a different philosophy of living life. Hence, our emphasis on the journey of the mind and the role of philosophy as a background to developing ideas. Over so many lectures, that is what we have achieved. From the lectures 1 to 8, we have been addressing this task only. We seek to attain this objective of well-being through this course on research ethics using research methodology. After all, progress of humankind has emerged from search and research. If their ethics are correct, and so is their methodology, why should it be difficult to meet the new objective? The process started in the first 8 lectures, and in the very first lecture we started ab initio. So we started right from the beginning because we have to start differently to meet the objective. It was followed by introducing ancient wisdom's idea of the Sahana Vavatu approach of searching within and with others in a spirit of cooperation with humility to seek excellence and fill the search of excellence with goodness. So what has been our research methodology so far, and how does it lead to research ethics? Using the right methodology to solve the problem is the best example of research ethics. To get the right answer is the method. To get the right answer, we need to ask the right question first. The process of finding the right question is the method. The methodology we find represents the ethics of research. Why? Ancient wisdom's Sahana Vavatu approach is our methodology of exploring the mind and its philosophy, or the very basis of ideas that lead to human action. Reforming those ideas is our task, because actions that have resulted in 2020 and in 2008 are a result of human actions, and human actions depend on human thought. Therefore, reforming thought and making the thought start from a different point of view is our journey. The cooperation we discover is not just with others, it starts within the individual by cooperation between thought, word and action. For this, speaking the truth and following righteous conduct is the path of Sahana Vavatu. So how have we done it till now? Our methodology sought research ethics in 3 ways. 1. We have stressed the importance of the spirit of search as the basis of research. An inner search can lead to OECD's need for transformative competencies and reflection before action. And we have given in the earlier sessions the examples of Professor Donald Knuth and other thinkers. Secondly, we have sought to discover the spirit of methodologies to fulfill the purpose of research. The spirit behind the methodologies is more important than following the letter. Discovering the commonality of spirit of research methodology with business research was done. Also because business ethics in 2008 led to OECD's new agenda. The idea is to inculcate in students a habit to discover the spirit of inner search. That's the second. And what was the third? We have stressed on the importance of philosophy, of search and research. The philosophy of life should guide the attitude towards research, as OECD wants to transform attitudes. Philosophy gives a starting point of search and research. It can transform the nature of desires. And what are they? Those are the answers we seek, which are reflected in the actions. Like the actions of 2008 showed the answers we seek from life, from business, etc. The nature of such desires, or the answers which are given by individuals to society, determine our questions now. That is why our sessions start with some questions that the mind needs to explore, and jointly exploring the truth, starting within ourselves and then together as a group, is the Sahana Vavatu approach. So what were the questions that we asked before every session? Can there be research without search? Can there be research ethics without ethics? Can there be a research methodology without a method? So what was the method of the Sahana Vavatu approach? The method was to find the root of the problem before you start. Therefore, we have taken the earlier 8 sessions to find out the journey of the mind which has influenced academics, academic thought, and human actions, which has resulted in the crisis of 2008 and 2020. Let us find it together, sharing perspectives and building a common commitment to search for the truth. And the truth of our time is to create well-being, for which prosperity is but a small part. So what is the first thing to be researched? The first thing to be searched for is the truth. That is the standpoint of ancient wisdom. Each session of Sahana Vavatu approach seeks to work together, very different from the individualistic, hedonistic way in which current ideas are applied in life. It starts with a prayer to explore the truth in all its dimensions, so that the ability to apply it fills our acts with brilliance. Now, what is this brilliance of ancient wisdom? In modern terminology, we say that it should be understood as excellence filled with goodness. If you remember the book, Search for Excellence, so it is that excellence but filled with goodness. Such a search of truth fulfills the goals of OECD of creating well-being through education. Not just prosperity for a few, but well-being of all. That is the method and we achieve it through togetherness, which leads to an attitude. It's only through togetherness that an attitude of seeking prosperity for all emerges. When fulfilling the need of all is sought as an objective, it leads to well-being naturally. So how will Sahana Vavatu approach define the root of the problems faced today? Each session of ancient wisdom's interaction between students and teacher always starts with the humble prayer of Sahana Vavatu. This prayer is invoking a spirit of cooperation in search for truth behind the visible or the invisible phenomena that will be discussed in that session. The dimensions of the truth are revealed by the experience of the teacher, and further dimensions are explored by the questions of students. As students are exposed to this way of seeing the truth for the first time, in their innocent questions, new dimensions may emerge. The innocence of questions is a valuable input, provided the intention behind asking them is sincere and thoughtful. This is the first step in ancient wisdom's research methodology. Seeking truth is the basis of its research ethics. The research ethics and methodology of Sahana Vavatu approach thus define the problem from one dimension only, the truth. It will simply state that the problem has arisen because either 1. The nature of the truth has not been explored before taking action. 2. If the nature of the truth has been explored, then it has not been comprehended correctly. Even if we have explored the truth, we have not comprehended the truth correctly. And thirdly, if we have explored the truth and comprehended it correctly, it was not acted upon correctly. Therefore, when exploring the truth later, we have to first understand the dimensions according to ancient wisdom. So what is the truth behind the problems that society faced in 2008 and 2020? The 2008 crisis was caused by untruths told to customers while selling derivatives, leveraged products, especially in USA housing. The 2020 crisis was caused by half-truths or untruths about the impact and spread of the virus. Then, it was lack of righteous conduct of social distancing. So, lack of truth and righteous conduct were the cause of the 2020 crisis. These half-truths that were given in 2020 led to a very slow response to the crisis and did not allow adequate precautions to prevent its wide spread. All crises, whether past, current or future, are related to the nature of investigation of the truth. So why is such an emphasis on truth? Because society, let us remember, works on mutual trust. We trust the doctor, we trust the bodies, we trust international organizations. So society works on trust. If trust is broken, the fabric of society is damaged. Then application of all academic ideas becomes meaningless. Tools created by education in the last 150 years, and these tools can be used for splitting atoms to developing derivatives and using viruses for a cure, not for spreading. All these tools have been used in a way that diverges from the original intention only because the very basis of search and research is forgotten. So what is taken as ceteris paribus or an assumption is getting violated. Hence our first session started ab initio, a need to go back to the beginning. Let us trace back our thought to the beginning, to the origin, to the intention, and then start from there, from the fresh viewpoint of pure intention. So the next session after the first session, ab initio session, introduced the habit of cooperating to discover the truth. If the approach of cooperation and joint investigation of truth, as in the Sahana Vavatu mantra, is forgotten, then mutual trust is violated. Let's remember that search, research ethics and research methodology all start with truth. Also, ancient wisdom defines that the purpose of education is to find the truth. This is valid even for mundane, visible phenomena. For example, we want to know the truth. Is the earth round or is it flat? Does the sun go around the earth or does the earth go around the sun? We want to find the truth. The search for truth is also needed for phenomena that is not visible, like gravity. You can see the sun, but you cannot see gravity. So it is useful to investigate yet a third invisible phenomena, which is a vital tool for human investigation. And that invisible phenomena that needs to be investigated is the human mind. Investigating the nature of the mind allows education to use the mind to its optimum capacity. Is the inoptimal or the non-optimal use of the human mind responsible for the problems that we are facing in society today? Should not the nature of the mind be investigated to seek truth of how to use the mind to achieve well-being? Is there also some eternal truth that does not fluctuate because the human mind is capable of fluctuating? Is such a never-changing truth too worthy of investigation? So is it not easier to find the truth by starting from the truth itself? To make the search for truth easy, ancient wisdom started by asking students to speak the truth. Not only is this habit necessary for creating trust and social order, but is useful for investigations into truth of visible and invisible phenomena according to their experience. Their experience, however, is not enough for modern education. Modern thought is based on validation and results. Therefore, to design a course on research ethics using research methodology in the current context, we must use current ideas of research, even though it may use research of another discipline. We have used business research methodology. We can use ideas of another research discipline, and we will study research of an anthropologist, just as we used a business research methodology earlier. Many may feel that is Sahana Vavatu trying to promote a narrow set of ideas of one particular sect, because we are looking at the Sanskrit tradition. The Sahana Vavatu is a Sanskrit mantra. So are we trying to do that? Is that our very narrow objective? That's not our objective. We need to understand that this idea of searching for the truth is a universal idea and has led to the survival of our civilization. These ideas of the Sahana Vavatu approach have been formulated thousands of years ago. It's not something that this lecture is giving, this course is giving. We are just revisiting our old ancient wisdom and reviving it so that the future of society can be formulated in a manner that prevents these crises. Because these ideas have been the basis of society. They lead to the idea of loving all, just as we love ourselves. These ideas are formulated to give joy to all and protect all. The ideas have been designed to hold the hand and lead all to the right path of thinking. This thinking leads to having an empathy for those who suffer sorrow and hardship. These ideas represent the truth of our society. They are eternal and represent the beauty or auspiciousness that motivates human effort. The course instructor of this course, Professor O.S.K.S. Shastri, has shared an experiment of ubuntu done by an anthropologist in Africa. The chief editor of Brazilian Journal of Clinical Analysis uses it as an introduction to laboratory management for modern business leadership. 19 references are listed in this article. He attributes reporting of this experiment to Leah Diskin, a philosopher journalist from Argentina. Activist Desmond Tutu uses this idea very often. It represents the essence of implementing ideas formed with the Sahana Vavatu approach. Therefore, to show that it is not an idea of a particular sect, a particular language, a particular region, we are giving an example from Africa. Ancient wisdom incorporates such an idea at the beginning of every class that it has, and that is what we will share now. It's a story from the anthropologist's experiment in Africa. He asked the tribal children to do something for them. He placed a basket of sweets near a tree and made the children stand 100 meters away. Then he announced that whoever reaches first would get all the sweets. It's like our elections, the winner gets all. So it's the winner would get all the sweets. So when he said, "Ready, steady, go," what did the children do? They held each other's hands and ran together towards the tree, divided the sweets equally among themselves, and enjoyed them together. Sahana Vavatu. So when the anthropologist asked them Why did they do so? They said ubuntu, which means how can one be happy when others are sad? That is the translation. In African language, it means, ubuntu means, I am because we are. Is that not the basic idea of Sahana Vavatu approach? That is the uniqueness of what we are saying. That is the uniqueness of this tradition, the uniqueness of Sahana Vavatu. It has application across regions, across time periods in history. These ideas are the very foundation of society. The approach of ancient wisdom can now be expanded further. The fruit of learning, or the sweetness that it adds to life, is shared by all equally in a spirit of cooperation called ubuntu in Africa. The Sahana Vavatu approach in India has 5,000-year-old literature on transforming thought. If this literature was available in Africa, we would have used that instead of the word Sahana Vavatu. We are not attached to the word. We are using the word to identify a concept. Because the literature is available, we can use that literature to develop a course on research ethics. That is why we are using this word. What enables the frame of mind to live in the spirit of mutuality and cooperation as identified by the Sahana Vavatu mantra. We have in our earlier sessions examined two pillars of ancient wisdom, truth and righteous conduct. The first few lectures stressed on how they evolve naturally from an understanding of Sahana Vavatu approach. The time has now come to explore two more dimensions that capture its spirit and are inculcated in the method and ethics. We are looking at research methodology, which depends on method, and we are looking to derive research ethics, which are based on ethics. So these four are inculcated in the method and ethics of wisdom's education. From the method, the research method emerges, and from the ethics, the research ethics emerges. This is the Sahana Vavatu way. So the next two pillars of Sahana Vavatu approach are peace and love. Why did children not run to get the sweets first? Let us look at ancient wisdom's central pillars of human motivation or human attitude or human desire. They are peace and love. Do we find them visible in the interactions in society today? Do we find interactions in society, the social interactions, peaceful, full of love? Are they needed by OECD? What is it that OECD seeks? Are we trying to impose peace and love on OECD? So let us examine what OECD seeks. It seeks an attitude which enables reflection before action. How to create that which OECD's Directorate of Education and Skills considers so vital, reflection before action. Let us also remember that OECD's Directorate also concludes that attitudes need to be transformed first. Was not a greed-driven attitude to single-mindedly maximize personal profit without thought of how harmful it will be to others, was that not the cause of 2008 crisis? That this attitude occurred despite the spread of education was also probably the cause of OECD's changing the goal from prosperity to well-being. Reflection before action emerges from a feeling of inner peace. Ancient wisdom says it emerges from selfless love. Both are so intertwined that the latter, that is selfless love, may actually emerge from the former, that's peace. But will these ideas have an academic acceptability? Has any academic work been done on this concept or a nearby concept? We will examine this later. First, let us ask why peace is not there in society and how to develop inner peace. Why is it not there in academic curriculum? And what is it, to include anything in academic curriculum, you need an experiment. An experiment is taught in science. If the procedure is known, the result can be anticipated, and then there is a body of knowledge that can demonstrate how the result is to be achieved. And this phenomena should be comprehensible to all. So does achieving inner peace and love fit into either of the above criteria? No. Why? This is the question that methodology should answer. If the question is correct, the method to find it will be right. That will be the way of developing the right research methodology. Using the right method, ethics should emerge from within the student. This was the direction of search of ancient wisdom. The teacher had experimented with this in his own inner search, and those who could relate to his method could research it. The teacher had done his search and the student could research it. The teacher also shared methods of search used by others. For those students who had a different inclination and could not comprehend the teacher's search method, so he shared the search methods of other teachers. So the students who could not understand or comprehend his search method could use the search methods of other teachers for their research. This is how the multiple philosophies of this 5,000-year-old tradition called Shad Darshans arose in ancient wisdom, the 6 different philosophies. These were the original research methodologies of ancient Indian wisdom. So what is the difference between wisdom search and today's search? Wisdom search was focused on inner transformation. Crossing the threshold of achieving inner transformation was the very first qualification of the teacher. You could not dare to call yourself a teacher if you had not experienced that inner transformation. So crossing the threshold and achieving a transformation was the first qualification for all teachers. It was also the first step in beginning education. In fact, it was the primary focus of education. Research may start with academic ideas of others and end with creating new academic ideas or developing them further. Wisdom search starts from within oneself. It makes one aware of one's unique abilities, and those unique abilities are then used for research, using the search and research of others. So can transformation of attitudes, values, ethics emerge from within in this manner? They can, if such research is accompanied by an inner search. The idea of developing a new curriculum to meet the new goals is directed towards seeking ways of inner transformation of individuals in society. A relevant question becomes, why go to ancient wisdom for this task? Why depend on ancient wisdom for transforming attitudes, values, ethics? As the current approach in education draws heavily from a scientific attitude, can we use the views of a scientist to guide us? Albert Einstein, the famous scientist, believed that it is not possible to solve a problem from the same mindset that has created it in the first place. What was the mindset which may have created current problems? Lectures 5 to 8 trace the history of the possible mindset that may have created current academic curriculum. OECD admitted that in the last 150 years, the spread of education has led to prosperity, but with social pain. The last 150 years are the culmination of a mindset that started probably with discarding Descartes' emphasis on the mind and concentrating on his attempt to explain non-human reductively as automata. Were humans too over time thought of as automata or as Descartes' digesting duck? Is this the mindset that has framed curriculum ideas? If so, can Einstein's observation guide us to look at sources other than reductionism or scientific materialism? Which thought created a mindset which may have framed current academic ideas? We have examined the change around 150 years ago in lectures 5 to 8. We have seen how Immanuel Kant's Enlightenment school ideas have been forgotten and considered redundant for education. Could the rejection of these ideas be the cause of change in context which is now the cause of current problems? Can we reinterpret all the valuable ideas, all the scientific thinking that academics has developed in the last 150 years from a different point of view, from a different viewpoint? Can this viewpoint enable the application of these ideas that we have developed in the last 150 years in a manner that prevents social pain? We saw in lecture 5 to 8 that after Kant, Hegel's ideas too suffered the same fate. Engels, who was Karl Marx's co-author, concluded that Feuerbach sounded the death knell for Hegel's ideas. This marked the end of classical German philosophy. Feuerbach believed that reflection is what humans are driven to and shared many of ancient wisdom's ideas in his earlier years. However, while writing his 1844 book, he learned to appreciate the truth and essentiality of sensuousness. Did sensuousness and scientific materialism's ideas lead to the current prime importance of sense perception as the way of expanding knowledge? This question is hard to answer, as is the case with many questions about how education ideas got misinterpreted to impact human behavior like this to cause 2008, 2020. Is it true that the nature of investigation of truth, what we call as education today, depends heavily on sense perception as the first way of knowing things? Does this mean that if we cannot perceive an emerging recession, the recession will not come? Does it mean that, like a pigeon which closes its eyes when it sees the cat, saying that my sense perception is not seeing the cat so the cat will not eat me, does it prevent the cat from gobbling up the pigeon? Or let us say, if we cannot perceive an earthquake from coming, will it not happen? Can we avoid the earthquake by depending on our sense perception? We know, for example, that this sense perception of hearing of a dog is better than that of humans. We know that birds react to an impending earthquake. Do animals and birds, scientists speculate, feel the P wave or the pressure wave that precedes the S wave or the secondary shaking wave? Scientists have found some birds 15 minutes before seismometers having reacted to earthquakes. Ancient wisdom always started beyond the instruments of human senses to find the truth. The fault of choosing an instrument which has limitations, as we have seen, human sense perceptions may have limitations. If we choose this as our primary mode of investigation, then the fault of choosing an instrument with limitations may be in interpretations given to philosophy. So this fault we are finding even in the interpretations that we have given to philosophy. For example, Descartes' famous quote, "I think, therefore I am," is remembered each time rodent sculpture of the thinker is described. Yet, did we use that? Or it was the digesting duck argument of Descartes which may have opened the gates to a mechanical materialism and later scientific materialism. The focus on the mind was lost. Thinkers who give mechanistic ideas were quite often actually rebelling against dogmatism in religion. That is how all these ideas emerged. They were rebelling against dogmatism in religion. Was their rebellion creating another dogmatism which ignores the essence of spirituality? For this essence rests on four common values of truth, righteous conduct, peace, and love. These are the four values which guide all religions also. Were they throwing out the baby along with the bathtub? In rejecting dogmatism of religions, were they throwing out the essence of spirituality, the essence of truth, righteous conduct, peace and love also? So that is why all these have not found a basis of interpreting their theories and all the work done in the last 150 years. As we have seen, whether it be research methodology or research ethics, the philosophy from which thought emerges is critical for the path forward. If the philosophy or the very basis from which ideas are formed is faulty or not clear, the end result of action will not be clear. In fact, the end result of action may be problematic. So did the problem lie in the lack of clarity of the basis of method and ethics? Is the basis of understanding of human nature and nature of the world not clear? That is how the method of investigation and its ethics got impacted. Sessions 7 and 8 saw MIT's Professor Chomsky finding that science is saying, I don't know. Do Bertrand Russell's statements admit to a similar lack of clarity existing about what is the ethic to be used in an ever-changing situation? Because we are encountering ever-changing situations in work and life. If method of the search is confused, the ethics of search cannot be clear. Any approach of research methodology and research ethics will not be able to prevent social pain. Thus, a philosophical clarity and an approach to all problems is the first condition for well-being to replace social pain. The choice of a philosophy that resolves questions is the first step needed. If sensuousness is interpreted to give sense perception as the best tool of investigating the truth, then the quality of truth that will be discovered may suffer. 2008 and 2020 may be examples of such suffering. Ancient wisdom states that when truth suffers, so does society. So why not resort to a philosophy that clarifies apparent contradictions? Therefore, the starting point of ancient wisdom's education is always its philosophy. It has the capacity in its concepts to overarch all apparent contradictions and clear all the confusions in human minds. So let us see how Feuerbach's and Hegel's basic clash has been resolved. Stanford Encyclopedia states, and I quote, in the thesis, Feuerbach argues that by positing the human essence outside of man, in the ethereal realm of absolute spirit, the Hegelian philosophy perpetuates the theological alienation of human beings from their own essence, unquote. Is this enough logic to see the essence within humans as sensuousness with the desire to avoid pain? So Feuerbach says that Hegel took the essence outside humans. So he tried to bring it within humans and when he brought it within humans, he said, yes, the essence is sensuousness. Are Hegel and Feuerbach the turning points in understanding of the very basis of philosophy, which guides method and therefore ethics? Or does the confusion start much earlier? Either way, if social pain results, we know that something needs a revisit. Research methodology is just a sub-function of search method, and research ethics are based on clarity about ethics. If the basis of thought and ideas is confused or disputed, can well-being result? Philosophy gives the essence. If that essence gets it even slightly wrong, then philosophy can become full loss. Which philosophy in ancient wisdom has an explanation of where this essence resides to prevent Hegel's unhappy consciousness? Rockmore in the University of California Press's publication states, and I quote, "The unhappy consciousness exhibits cognitive dissonance since the subject is simultaneously committed to conflicting theses," unquote. Which philosophy removes cognitive dissonance? This philosophy is found 5,000 years old texts have this philosophy in it. It is clearly explained therein that the essence is both within and outside humans everywhere, as in the Isha Upanishad. Thousands of years ago it was said, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. The term Isha is probably fulfilling reductionism's idea. Its spirit or essence pervades everything, but was not propounded in the manner that scientists interpret it today for the physical world. Instead, individuals were guided to live in the awareness of the essence being within and without, within all of us and all around us. In fact, ancient wisdom's practices awakened this dormant awareness within ourselves to experience the essence within, to discover our own potential. Because one of the ways of expression of this essence within ourselves is our unique capability. So the essence expresses itself in the unique capabilities of all elements, all human beings, everything that is in nature. That is why it's very difficult to find duplication in nature. That is why the essence encourages us not to copy, to be unique, to express our creativity. For that, we have to discover our own uniqueness. Can a factory line production model of education bring out that creativity? The purpose of education was to enable the discovery of the spirit within each individual, which can lead to its experience everywhere in the universe. Such awareness transforms attitudes, values, character, etc. that World Economic Forum and OECD seek from education. Such transformation emerges from a philosophy of living life practiced at work. Living in an awareness that makes ubuntu not something that is the result of social pressure. Can it arise naturally from within as an individual choice in today's context? A 1950s example of how it has worked in practice for mass transformation in today's world will be shared later. If the guiding philosophy that educates humans' ideas gets it even slightly wrong, social pain results. Gandhiji, who led India's independence movement against the British, he had a comment to make on Isha Upanishad. And this comment was something like this, that if all ancient Indian wisdom texts are lost and only the first stanza of Isha Upanishad is left, that is enough to revive all the texts. Gandhiji's book, autobiography, is called the story of my experiments with truth. So that his inner laboratory was within himself. And because he has transformed himself, and that's what we are asking every student to do, have his experiments with truth in life, so that he too can achieve tasks of mass transformation after transforming himself. Because Mahatma Gandhi understood the spirit, he was able to apply it in life. Therefore, he said that the importance of the human essence, understanding that, is the basis of living life. It is the basis of the way you comprehend situations. We can see that even discoveries by scientists are overtaken by the governing philosophy of that time. Professor Chomsky of MIT has pointed out that, and I quote, "The properties of matter, Newton showed, escape the bounds of mechanical philosophy," unquote. Newton was criticized for such a viewpoint. Let us remember that the idea of reductionism ruled philosophy at that time. Ancient wisdom also believes in reductionism, but it talks of essence, but says that essence you cannot understand as reductionism in a real world. That essence is in spirit and not in the physical world. But reductionism in the physical world ruled at that time. Scientific discovery, this shows, may be subservient to prevalent attitudes created by philosophy. Does a scientific idea get interpreted within limitations of current perceptions, even though its results may be challenging the idea itself, as is the case with Newton's results? It showed that properties of matter escape the bounds of mechanical philosophy. Newton's followers were reductionists, and Professor Chomsky felt, and I quote, "Newton and his followers did attempt to pursue the thoroughly Newtonian and reductionist task of uncovering the general mathematical laws which govern all chemical behavior," unquote. So ultimately they interpreted everything through the eyes of reductionism, according to Professor Chomsky. And Professor Chomsky says that it was Dalton who saved chemistry from reductionism. Let us remember that reductionism may have been borrowed from ancient wisdom's ideas of experiencing the essence everywhere. The essence was never material. It was to be experienced through practices like speaking the truth, which enabled the true human potential to be revealed from within. For those unable to do it, they use the sense organs and the physical forms to discover it. This commonality they found, and when they discovered it, they found it in the atom. So the atom is the common thing. So how to create attitudes that protect thinkers from the fate of, say, Galileo or Socrates? In every day and age, the prevalent philosophy that is generally accepted is considered as wisdom. Is our ability to seek a transformation in attitudes, competencies, values and ethics going to be limited by our mindset that believes that only that what we know currently is wisdom? If that is our mindset, then can we interpret the ideas correctly? Even though the fact remains that these very ideas that we think are wisdom could not prevent 2020 or 2008. So, or are we going to be guided by Einstein's conclusion that we cannot solve the current problem if we are trying to solve it from the current mindset? Therefore, in our design of research ethics curriculum, we are resorting to ancient wisdom, not current wisdom, just in case current wisdom is not able to succeed in the task of preventing these problems of 2020 and 2008. If philosophy is able to clarify many confusions that may have led to sensuousness, materialism, hedonism and self-centeredness as a guide, that's why we use ancient wisdom, because its philosophy can guide us in a different manner. Ancient wisdom's 4 values exist in all religions. Only their essence was forgotten or was misinterpreted. The ideas behind the four values unify all religions and philosophies that enable a civilization to survive. Jesus talks of selfless love. His selflessness is explained by his devotees in the way that he gave up his physical body to take away the problems of his devotees. He, they say, died to save mankind. That is selfless love in action. But that has become part of legend, folklore. The meaning of Islam, according to its scholars, is peace. Some others state that Islam means having equal love for all. Hence, the concepts of peace and love are intertwined as a personal experience. They have been handed down for thousands of years. We are not trying to promote one very small, narrow, way of thinking. It's not a new approach that we are giving. We are reviving an ancient tradition which is shared by everyone, everywhere in the world. Human transformation over thousands of years sought to create this valuable experience within individuals. According to local cultures and customs, these ideas took the shape of religions. But all religions have these four core values. These four values are the core of ethics that have to be researched, that have been researched over thousands of years. Can a research ethics course ignore them? Can a research methodology revive the method of inculcating them through education, just as religions did earlier? Research needs evidence for its method and for its ethics to be believed. Else it may be called wishful thinking. Does evidence exist in today's world of the capacity of selfless love? Can any evidence demonstrate the power of selfless love? Can it demonstrate in today's context? This becomes the question. In the 1950s, Time magazine had a very interesting and different cover story. Its cover story was that of a gentleman called Vinoba Bhave. And this is the evidence that we are giving of selfless love in action in today's context. This is the evidence that proves that it is possible to do human transformation and mass transformation using selfless love. If we see human history, land has been the cause of most of the disputes. Wars between kingdoms have been fought over land. Fights between people have been over land. People have fought for it, killed for it, died for land. So that is usually the strongest attachment of kings, kingdoms, individuals. Can we make people give up that attachment? Vinoba Bhave traveled village to village and made people give up their land for the landless by doing a very simple thing, awakening the selfless love within them. He would walk into the village and would openly declare that I have come to loot you with love. And he actually did it. This led to the largest peaceful land transfer in human history to the landless. Over 4 million acres of land. And when was this? As recently as 1953. So does love work in real life today? When Vinoba Bhave said, I have come to loot you with love, it proves that selfless love exists in all human beings and that it can be awakened easily. This is demonstrated by the work of Vinoba Bhave in the 1950s. You see, the emphasis is on the word peace. Peaceful transfer of land. We have seen our history is full of violence, aggression to get land. this is peaceful transfer of land. So love and peace. Because he came to loot with love, he was able to do the land transfer with peace. With this, we rest. With this evidence, we rest our case. And now we will, in the next session, take this idea further. I look forward to your questions and to your suggestions and to your observations and to your inner search. And we will discuss that as and when you are ready with your questions. Thank you so much for your time and attention.